Hello, and welcome to today's SommCon discussion on the amazing Terroir of Italy. My name is Michelle Meter, and I'm the founder and director of SommCon USA, and proud to be joined here today by an exceptional panel of producers alongside our moderator, Lars Light, from the Tasting Panel and Somm Journal. Before we begin, I want to provide a few updates related to SommCon's two in-person conferences. Due to the COVID pandemic, we are postponing the Washington, D.C. conference, previously scheduled for July, and moving that conference now to 2021. We continue to monitor the situation for our November conference in San Diego, and we'll keep everyone posted as that continues to unfold. In the meantime, we're really pleased to announce that this September, we will be hosting a SommCon virtual summit with a week packed of live educational opportunities led by a global network of industry luminaries representing all aspects of our market. Also, as we continue to move to a new way of connecting, SommCon is also launching a year-round initiative called SommCon 365, bringing video education to beverage professionals and serious enthusiasts on a huge array of topics. We'll keep you all notified when those opportunities are live and available, so more coming soon. Finally, I'd like to thank each of you for joining us today, and those especially who made contributions when you registered. Because of your support, we've been able to make grants to sommeliers and beverage professionals who've had job loss due to the pandemic, as well as grants to deserving organizations like the United Sommeliers Foundation. It's through your support, as well as the Tasting Panel, the Somm Journal, Bamfi Foundation, Boisset Collection, and Lead Family Wines that we can help those currently in need. So thank you very much. So now I'd like to turn the discussion over to today's moderator, Lars Light. Lars, thanks for joining us.
There we go. I committed the ultimate sin of the Zoom conference and left my mute on. So forgive me. Thank you very much, Michelle. It is such an honor to be here on behalf of the Somm Journal and Tasting Panel magazine, two publications that I have always believed in, even before I started doing collaboration with them, because of the wonderful works that they do in education. I am obviously particularly excited to be here to talk about Italy, which is one of my loves. Years ago, when I was having marital troubles, I was accused of having a mistress. And the friend that told me that, when I looked a little shocked at them, they said, no, I don't mean a person, I mean a place. Italy is your mistress. Italy is my muse. So it's a place that's very special to me. And obviously Italy today is in all of our hearts. Italy kind of took the first hit on the COVID pandemic. And they were all Italians were absolutely exemplary in the way that they handled it. And they've taught us many lessons that we all can use in other countries moving forward. So I'm very proud of my mistress, my Italia. Italy obviously is very charming, if with all due respect, because I have half Italian heritage, half German, Austrian heritage. So if I just, I can get away with saying things like this. If you just think about how everything sounds better in Italy, even coronavirus sounds better than coronavirus. But in Italy, if somebody walks up to you in Germany, I'm sorry, and says, Ich liebe dich, or if somebody in Italy walks up to you and says, Porta fuori la spazzatura, the last one sounds a little bit more charming, a little nicer, doesn't it? Except the first one was I love you in German, and the second one was take out the garbage in Italian. So everything sounds a little bit better in Italian. So I'm going to now try to do a little share screen to give you a little bit of an overview. I don't want to take too much time because we have such an incredible panel of rock stars here to present to you. But I do want to talk about Italy. Friends of mine would often call Italy 20 regions in search of a country, which has maybe not so true anymore, because I've seen during this whole COVID quarantine and crisis, Italy has really come together as a country with great pride and made us all very proud. Now, if I can get this next slide to move. Italy, just to put things in a relative sense, Italy's only 0.5% of the surface of the earth, but we like to be together. We like to be close. This is a scene that we probably won't see for a while at the Palio in Siena, but Italy is home to 0.8% of the world's population. Italy has more different types of vegetables than Brazil, more species of animals than China, more types of wheat than the US, more types of apples, or the majority of apples in the world. That's always kind of shocking. You don't consider Italy to be a place of apple growing, but they can grow anything there. Of course, we all know Italy and we love Italy for its treasures. The wealth of the world's art treasures are in Italy, 70%. And of course, the reason we're all here today is the wealth of Italy in its grape varieties. So many different grape varieties, 1,800, even more than France, which only has 200. They may have the World Cup, but they don't have the grape varieties that we have. And then, of course, I had to take a picture of my dinner the other night because I think this is very emblematic. Another friend once told me that technically you could consider the national dish of Italy being spaghetti because it's very typical, very classic. And if you look at this dish of spaghetti, it looks like a mess. It's a mess of confusion. Right? You've got different strands of spaghetti going in different places. There's some sauce here, there's some sauce there, there's no sauce over here. But in reality, and that sometimes Italy can look like a mess and look very confusing as well. People often say that if chaos and confusion didn't already exist, we would have had to invent it in Italy. But in reality, that dish of pasta was delicious, as is Italy. It is just wonderful. And despite the looks of it, despite maybe looking a little bit chaotic, it's gorgeous and it's wonderful. So I'm very thrilled to be talking about Italy today. And I'm going to start, we looked at our wonderful panel and we decided who should go first. And I decided something. I took a page out of the book of Giuseppe Garibaldi, who was the hero of Italian unification. And the ruling family that wanted to unify Italy started off in the north in Piedmont. And they said, we should work our way down the boot. And Garibaldi was very smart. He said, no, if you know Italy, you have to take it from the south. You have to take it from the heartland, from Sicily up the boot, work your way up the boot. So I've decided to take a page from Garibaldi, and we're going to start in the Mezzogiorno. We're going to start in the south of Italy with my dear friend Milena Pepe from Tenuta Cavaliere Pepe, who is going to talk about her beautiful estate in Irpinia and her wines there. So Milena, please, I yield the floor to you. Tell us about your estate, your wonderful land, and remember to unmute yourself.
Okay. Hello to everybody. Thank you, everybody, to attend the webinar. Thank you, Lars and the Summer Journal for the organization. I will present my family winery, and I will be helped by a PowerPoint with some photo to try to be complete and concise. I apologize if I make mistakes. It's one of my first time I present my winery in front of a webcam. And sorry if I do mistake in English. And I do also in Italian because I'm half Belgium, half Italian. My mother is Belgium, my father is Italian. I'm Milena Pepe, and I'm born in Brussels. I study in Brussels, first marketing and management in Belgium and in Holland. And then I moved in France to study viticulture and enology. First, I also make some important experience for me in two main domaines, le domaine La Janasse à Châteauneuf-du-Pape et le domaine Chapoutier à Tain-l'Hermitage. Then I moved in my family village in Italy, in south of Italy. We are 80 kilometers from Naples on the Apennine Mountains. And my father is from the village where we have the winery. My father works and is in Belgium since 45 years. He has a restaurant there, but he has also here in Italy 9 brothers and sisters, and he always my family come 1 to 3 times a year. And he continued to develop the reality of the family with the vineyard here in Italy. So slowly, we restructured the vineyards, buy some other vineyards, and bought it from the beginning. And now we have 60 hectares of vineyard and 7 hectares of olive groves. My father is still in Belgium, but I'm here since 2005. So this year I will prepare my 16th year that I manage the winery and the vinification of our own grapes. So this is a landscape and the panorama from the restaurant, because in the winery we also have a restaurant and also a house where we have several apartments and you may stay and rest. So this is Sant'Angelo all'Esca, one of the village. Well, Irpinia is really beautiful. We are between 400 and 500 meter altitude. And you see, it's really green. We have all little villages on the top of the hills, and just along the slopes, all the vineyards, the olive trees, and also fruit trees. Because here we have a main company who make marmalade and juice for all Italy. So we can go ahead with the slide. This is my father. It's he works and he's working a lot to create a reality in his family village. And I help him. This is the restaurant on the top of the hill. So as I said, the restaurant is part of the vineyards, but we are in the middle of Campania, 80 hectares of vineyards. We make 50,000 bottles a year, 100,000 bottles a year. And our main production are for Taurasi. It's an Aglianico, it's the grape variety, Fiano di Avellino and Greco di Tufo. So we are on the Apennine Mountains. We are in a fresh climate. We can go ahead. It's a windy climate also, and that is important for the maturation of the grapes, but for all the year, because we have less humidity during the Easter and the summer, and also for the maturation. We harvest on September, October, end of October, beginning of November. The autochthone grape variety are Fiano, Greco for the white, Falanghina, Coda di Volpe, and then we have Aglianico for Taurasi. So if I have 2 minutes, I will speak about the territory, because we are in South Italy, but in a fresh area. So we have alcohol, because we have sugar. We have acidity of the grape, Aglianico, Fiano, Greco, Falanghina, they're quite acid. We have minerality from the soil, because we have soil who are chalky and clay soil with volcanic elements. So the clay will give volume, body to the wine. The chalky part will give a good minerality in the wine. And we also have in our vineyards ashes from the volcanoes area. So we are 80 kilometers from Naples, but we have different area where there were volcanoes active or not, like Pozzuoli area, the Vesuvio, and Rocca Monfine are all volcanic area. And we have, after several explosions during the cycle, we have in our vineyard those ashes who give a long finishing month to everything who grow up, not only wine, but also food, because we have the oil, a DOP for the oil, we have truffle, we have cheese, we have a lot of different, we have chestnuts, we have different good products. We have the Sherry Mary, so wine made of Aglianico, but had of sugar, it's an aperitif, and we have the oil, mainly our oil, really, really good, is one of our more important products. especially because it's one of the products who make part of the Italians' food. So we cannot have a good lunch without a good oil. And I have 2 children. I take care of them since 10 years. And really, I pay attention of the oil that we have because it's 100% of olive. This is the restaurant. So at the top of the hill, you can see the restaurant, and you have all the view on the Irpinia, with our province. Irpinia is the name of our province. We do a lot of activities since I'm open. I'm open on Saturday and Sunday also for wine tasting every day, but also for guide tour in the vineyards, and also harvest during the harvest with the family. So you're welcome when you have time to come in Campania to visit. We have beautiful area on the coast, of course, but also inside, in the countryside. We eat well, we have a good weather, but also healthy air, and relax. You can enjoy to live in South Italy, in Irpinia. So you're welcome when you want, and I'm here for any question, and thank you for your time.
Bravissima. Thank you, Milena. I know I have a couple of important questions. Number one that I'm going to ask everybody on this panel is, who is your importer in the US, so we know where we can find your wines?
You can find my wines with Michael Romano, who distributes our wine here in New York and around. And then we are in the EBC, in Miami and around. We are in Chicago with Paolo Cerruti. And we have other importator now. Well, for any question, write me.
It's always complicated in the US. And any observations or notes on how you've been able to deal with the complications caused by the quarantine at the winery or in your business?
Yeah, it's really hard. Well, I never stopped working. Maybe I work more than before. Yeah. Because first is the healthy of the team who work in the vineyard, and then in the office, in the winery. But at the beginning, we close the winery, but we continue to manage the vineyards. So slowly, Italy closed, then a board. So we didn't have any order. Now we begin to work again. In Italy, we actually, tomorrow, the restaurant will open again. And we hope really then they will begin their own work, because there is a bit of stress, not only because of the healthy problem, but also economic problems. So.
All right, thank you. Here's hoping we all come out of this better and improved and quickly moving forward. So working our way up the boot again, now we're going to go to the east coast of Italy, to Le Marche, which I'm very excited about hearing more information about, because Le Marche, I have to say, with all respect to the Velenosi family, Le Marche is one of those areas that we just don't hear enough about. So I'm very pleased to have Mariana here, and who I think is her sister, Angelina, with her. But tell us who she is. Please take yourself off mute and tell us more about Le Marche and the Vini Velenosi.
Hello, everybody. We are very happy to be in video conference with you today. So my name is Mariana Velenosi. I am the second generation of the Velenosi winery, and I'm in charge of the marketing. This is my mother, not my sister, sorry, Angela Velenosi. So she's the owner and one of the founders of Velenosi Vini. So first of all, to answer the question of Lars, we are imported in the United States by VS Imports. and is a national importer. So it has all the different states. We can go with the presentation, Lars, thank you. So our winery is located in the region of Le Marche. So we are in the center of Italy on the east coast, as you can see from the map. So Le Marche is a beautiful and quite undiscovered region, and the only one in Italy with a plural name. It's filled with mountains, hills, beaches, lakes, rivers, and historic cities. In a few words, it is a miniature of Italy. I would like to present my region through some figures. So Le Marche has 112 miles of coastlines, 16 touristic cities with beachfronts, 8 marinas, 2 seaports, of which San Benedetto del Tronto is the major European fishing harbor. The most incredible thing is that 10% of our land is protected. Moreover, 2/3 of the region is covered by hills, and 30% of it is the famous Apennine mountain range. And as you can see in the next slide. So now we have some pictures of our beautiful region. So these are our hills. Then we have our coasts, where there are Porto Novo and San Benedetto, the most touristic cities of the region where people spend their holidays during summer. So on the following slide, then there is San Benedetto del Tronto, also known as the Golden Palm Beach because of its almost 5 miles of beachfront with golden sand and palm trees. Moving on to the next slide, this is Offida. Offida is an historical city, medieval city close to Ascoli. It is important, this city, because 2 main appellations of the region take their name from this city. So we have the Pecorino Offida DOCG and the Offida DOCG Red. On the next slide, there is Ascoli Piceno, our beautiful city. Visiting Le Marche means discovering over 500 town squares, with the one of Ascoli Piceno, the one you can see on the slide, being rated as one of the most beautiful in Italy. Moving on to the next slide, we'd like to present our winery. So my parents founded the winery in 1984. They were really young with no experience in the wine sector and no money. At that time, Le Marche was, and still today, as Lars said, Le Marche was a wine region unknown to most people around the world, with no famous appellations. You can then imagine the strain and the effort which they had to put into this project at the beginning. So we started with 22 acres and a very small cellar. After so many sacrifices and after a huge amount of hard work, today Velenosi is one of the most renowned and biggest wineries of the region, both for quantity and for awards obtained. Today we export to 52 countries around the world, and we produce almost 2.5 million bottles. However, 30% of our sales are domestic, so still the main market is Italy. We have 40 employees, and on our staff there is a wine personality such as Attilio Pagli, which is one of the most famous winemakers in the world. Also, my brother Matteo, who is a researcher specialized in fermentations, is part of the technical staff. You can see all our recognitions on that slide, and we are proud to be on the most prestigious wine guides of the world, including Wine Spectator, Decanter, and most reputed Italian guide, Gambero Rosso, among others. During the past few years, but above all,
not to mention Somm Journal.
Yes, thank you, Lars. So during the past few years, but above all, with the presence of the second generation, so my brother and I, the company has set a new target, that is the environmental sustainability. In fact, we are entirely reconverting our production to organic, and we have almost completely eliminated the use of plastic within the company. We strongly believe in this way, so in organic wines. Now we would like to speak about our terroir. The majority of our vineyards are located in the south of the region of Le Marche, at about 300 and 400 meters above sea level. We harvest only by hand. As you can see from the slide, this is the composition of our soil, which is mainly clay, silt, and sand. So, for example, the vineyards where we produce our pecorino, pecorino is an indigenous grape variety of the region, and our brecciarolo, that is a blend of Montepulciano and Sangiovese grapes, are mainly made up of silt and clay. While the composition of the soil of our most awarded wine, Roggio, that is also a blend of Montepulciano and Sangiovese, is primarily sand. Before speaking about our wines, we have to understand why Le Marche region is not so well known for its wines. So we have to look at the numbers of Italian wine production. Indeed, the Italian production, the average Italian production is about 50 million hectoliters per year. Le Marche region only produces less than 1 million hectoliters, so 1.6% of the total Italian production. But even though the production is very small compared to other regions, the quality is really high. That's why Le Marche is considered a boutique wine producers. To understand the reason why it's considered a boutique wine producer, we have to look at the conditions. So in Le Marche region, we have the ideal conditions for wine production. Thanks to the physiognomy and the composition of our region, we have really hot summers that can be as hot as 100 degrees Fahrenheit. But thanks to the Apennines, there are many rivers that cross the region and flow into the Adriatic Sea, like a Como. Because of these rivers and the Balkan wind, the temperature excursion between day and night is very high. Moreover, as you can see from the next slide, during the winter, the cold wind from the Balkans carries snow with it. So normally we have snow during winters, as you can see from the pictures of our snow-covered vineyards. And the last picture is San Benedetto del Tronto, that is in the seafront. So thanks to these climatic and environmental conditions, we have several microclimates within the region. And this allows the growth of several grape varieties. In this slide, you can see all the indigenous grape varieties growing in our region. Moreover, the same grape variety can develop different personalities. So, for instance, the Verdicchio, we have Verdicchio dei Castelli di Jesi and Verdicchio di Matelica, so the same grape variety that shows different personalities, different characteristics. In Le Marche region, we have 5 DOCG, and 15 DOC. It is also important to say that 70% of the regional wine production is in the south of the region, where we have our winery. Moving on to the next slide, we would like to present 2 wines, Brecciarolo and Roggio. Brecciarolo was the first wine produced by the winery, and it takes its name from the hill where the winery is located. It is a Rosso Piceno Superiore, is a blend of Montepulciano, 70%, and Sangiovese, 30%. Rosso Piceno is the most important appellation of the region, as it is produced in the entire territory. However, Superiore means that can be produced only in a restricted area in the south of the region within 17 villages, and consequently has stricter norms. As you may know, Montepulciano and Sangiovese grapes have different ripening times. So we harvest the Sangiovese at the end of September, while Montepulciano is the last one to be harvested in mid-October. So we vinify and age in non-new barriques the two wines separately, and then they are blended before the bottling phase. Brecciarolo is for sure the most expressive wine of our territory, with its ruby red hues and its sense of red fruit and spices. It's a very charismatic wine, both medium-bodied and well-balanced, and it confirms the taste of central Italy. Let's take a look at Roggio. Roggio is our champ. Roggio is our top-of-the-line product. The name Roggio is a poetic term used by Pascoli, an Italian poet, that means ray of light through the vineyards. Also in this case, it is a blend of Montepulciano and Sangiovese, but it comes from a very old single vineyard and is aged for 18 months in new barriques, French oak. Roggio, in this case, has intense sense of blackberries and vanilla and is full-bodied and warm. As you can see, Roggio is our most awarded wine. 15 years, 3 bicchieri of Gambero Rosso, 88 points by Wine Advocate, 97 points by Luca Maroni, and many more. In addition, our Roggio 2016 placed 4th in the ranking of the best Italian red wines by the magazine Gentleman. We would like to say just a few words about the current situation in Italy regarding the coronavirus, as we say in Italy. As you know, we are now in the phase 2 of the lockdown, so we can freely move within our region and restaurants are open again. Velenosi, as supplier of the retail chain, we kept on producing during all the lockdown, so we never stopped. However, the shutting down of the on-premise business highly affected our sales, especially in Italy, which is our most important market. However, we are sure that soon everything will go back to being normal, as many countries that we work together are starting up again, just like Italy. So we hope to go back to the normality as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mariana and Angelina. Yes, we could all use a ray of light these days. So we all hope that we get back to normal. Thank you. You anticipated my questions, which is great. So next up, we have we're moving into Tuscany, and we're in the area of Montalcino with my dear friend, former colleague, Igor Marini, who is going to present for us the wines of Castello Banfi.
Hi, Lars. Hi, everybody. So happy to be here with you tonight with the Somm Journal and with a lot of attendees from all over the world. I just watched the chat, people from Australia, Guatemala, Hollywood, so it's fantastic. It's, to me, it's a kind of a way to get out of Italy in quarantine. So thanks for that as well. So Banfi is a family business run since 1978 from the Mariani family. It was an Italian-American family back to Italy in the 70s in the tough times of winemaking, let's say, to build up from, let's say, almost scratch, a beautiful wine business in the central part, in the south part of Tuscany, in the middle of nowhere. So, you know, in the 70s, the situation in Italy was not the same as it is today, talking about the wine business. So it was very challenging for them to establish in one of the most important Italian appellations in a time where Brunello was not that famous as it is today. So the let's say, focus and the goal of the Mariani family was to make a state-of-the-art winery with, let's say, the most advanced science combining with a nice territory and a nice environmental care. So whatever they did since the beginning was in the aim to get the best, whatever they were doing. Almost in, let's say, 42 years, they reached the goal, and we can say that nowadays, Banfi is the biggest producer of Brunello di Montalcino, is the leader in production of Brunello. So we have a huge estate, so Lars, you can go on to the next slide, and which is about 3,000 hectares of property and is the largest contiguous wine estate in Europe. So all of this map you can see is the Banfi property, and the color, the vineyards are where the vine grapes are. So we are not only vineyards, but the 2/3 of the property is wild, is forest, is olive trees, is prunes, is wheat cultivation, is a natural environment completely preserved by the Mariani family and Banfi since the beginning. So as you can see by the figures, we are #1 producer of Brunello di Montalcino with 170 hectares and about 30 hectares of Rosso di Montalcino. So what is really making a difference in Banfi is the huge amount of different terroirs and microclimates that make an incredible variety of styles of grapes. So the potential of producing fantastic wines and different kind of wines was extremely high since the beginning. So we founded the goal and the aim of the Banfi family since the beginning in finding the best way to, let's say, adapt and to try to find new strategies in terms of developing and high quality wines independently on the price range. But of course, focusing on Sangiovese, which is our native grape variety from Tuscany and the base 100% of all the Brunello di Montalcino that we produce, and by the law, Brunello can be produced only with 100% Sangiovese. So these on figures, on the map, sorry, on the picture, are the 4 flagship wines, Brunello, that we are producing. So from the left is the basic, let's say, Brunello di Montalcino Castello Banfi, our really flagship. Then Poggio Loro is a Riserva from a single vineyard, our most iconic wines. And then the 2 new projects starting in 1997 called Poggio Le Mura. I will go deeper into details with these 2 a little afterwards, because there's a lot of things to say about Banfi, especially in terms of technical topics. I know that the most of you participants to this wonderful webinar are very expert in wine, so probably you need to know something more specific about what we did, our winemaking procedures, our agriculture, and whatever can be, let's say, defining the key words of Banfi. So since the beginning, what is defining us is pioneering. We were really trying to find new roads, to mark new roads for the wine business in Montalcino. And of course, through research, innovation, to introduce new tools and new ways of meaning the winemaking and the production of Sangiovese. And then once again, everything is connected, pioneering research with, of course, sharing. We were so proud to share whatever we do and whatever we did with the community, because as I say, the Mariani family came into Montalcino in 1978, and they were, let's say, the new kids on the block. So coming from the US and in such a very, let's say, protective environment and a territory like Montalcino is, it was not that easy to start a business like that. And it's also to be accepted by the community. But in 42 and plus years, we now establish an incredible, huge and fantastic relationship with all the producers of Montalcino, thanks to our innovation and the sharing of whatever we did in these 42 years. And then finally, respect not only for the territory and the community of Montalcino coming from abroad, but also for the environment. In one word, we can say that sustainability began the key words of Banfi since the beginning, and with the aim to produce the highest quality wines, yes, but also the wealthiest quality wines since ever. So these are definitely the 4 key words representing Banfi still today. And so to go on with that and talking about pioneering or research and innovation, you can imagine that having almost 3,000 hectares, a little less, of vineyards in such a wonderful estate, the key words and the, let's say, biggest issue for us was to study every little zone and part of the estate and every clone of Sangiovese. So we based our knowledge in the study of the Sangiovese clones, identifying the first 650 existing, and now using only a part of them, I will go deeper afterwards, to produce our high-end Brunello, Poggio Mura, but also to make the biggest study of Sangiovese ever in Italy. In the beginning made by ourselves, and then with the university in order to establish a new line, a new, let's say, complete way to understand, for understanding a Sangiovese. And this was just the first. And you know, having 650 clones of a single grape variety with 30 different kind of microclimates and terroirs, the difficulty to make a kind of normal style Brunello was even bigger. So we decided very smartly to divide the Banfi estate in little parcels, little zone, kind of a zonation, in order to get the best from every single corner of the estate. And nowadays we can say that Banfi is a constellation of single vineyards, just made by taking care of any one of those since the beginning, so from the harvest, the picking, to the fermentation, the aging, independently. So we potentially can produce more than 20 and plus Brunello every year, and we do. We just blend them together before bottling in order to get a single Castello Banfi Brunello for all over the world. But the path that those grapes are following from the beginning, from the picking to the bottling, is separated. So we are also doing today actually more than 20 kind of different Brunellos every year. And part of this innovation and the follow-up of this zonation is the pictures you can see now. Is a very, let's say, pioneer fermentation system, is patented, invented by Banfi. And this big room is let's say, made by hybrid tanks made by stainless steel and oak together. They are fermentation tanks, 177 hectoliters. They were for the first time used in the world by Banfi to get a different way of fermenting Sangiovese, of course, but also to follow up the zonation. I mean, does it make any sense to divide your zone in 20 different parcels if you cannot ferment them separately, age them separately, and of course produce them separately? So what is it for? Why? You could ask me. Because, you know, in the microclimate of all of the little parcels and zones of Banfi, we can have really potentially different Brunellos every year. But with a very deep knowledge in all of them, we can then actually face problems or difference in the weather condition, harvest from harvest, vintage from vintage, and get only the best from every single zone. So in tough vintages like 14 or 17, that was the opposite. So very poor the first and very hot the second and very dry. We could face this kind of climate change by zonation and just getting the best from all of the little zones, eliminating some and using some others to produce, of course, our, let's say, standard quality Castello Banfi Brunello. The picture you can see now is the final result of our Sangiovese study on the clones. So when we identify 650 bulb, we micro-vinified and we all of them in order to eliminate those that were not fitting our expectation and our quality philosophy, and just keeping those that we are still using today to produce Banfi Brunellos. And they are from 650, we get down to 180, then now 15 more or less in the old Banfi estate, and finally down to 3, the ones you can see here, Janus 15, 10, and BF 30, very technical names, which are the first wines, the first clones, and the only 3 clones that we used to produce the first ever made Brunello di Montalcino Poggio Mura, with the result of the clonal selection. So it's all about Sangiovese, but the clones are like, let's say, 650 babies and sons of the same parents, but with different personalities, of course, and all of them, they can vary and make different styles and give different impacts to the Brunello Banfi. And Poggio Lemuro was actually the final result of this huge clonal selection. So this is quite important also to understand and to, let's say, introduce other experimental, topics into Banfi. And we are very proud to say that everything is started from the agriculture. You cannot make an excellent wine with bad grapes. But so what everyone is born into the vineyards, and to make healthy grapes is the base for producing good wines, healthy wines, excellent wines. And what we are facing also now in Banfi is, and not only in Banfi, I guess in everywhere in the world, in Europe especially, is a huge climate change. And this is leading to different, let's say, directions. Mist of water, different kind of hot temperatures, treatments, sustainable vineyards. So in more than 20 years experiment, my colleague Gianni Savelli, the agronomist in chief of Banfi, developed the picture on the left is called Alberello Banfi. It's a new trellising system, never used before, and once again patented and introduced by Banfi in Montalcino, only especially for Sangiovese grapes, which is reducing a lot of procedures in order to make the agriculture sustainable. It's also allowing the picking a little higher than the sported cordon, is living and cohabit with the sported cordon in the same rows, giving us the opportunity to replace every single plant together with the sported cordon and not the total vineyard. So it was a huge kind of experiment. They have, the Alberello Banfi has only 4 or 5 canes, which leads to a lower treatment, a lower pruning. And another big problem, which is a disease for the whole Europe, is ESCA disease. And it seems like the lower the cuts and the lower the possibility to get the ESCA in our vineyard. So the Alberello Banfi, we experimented in all these years that is also reducing the pruning and of course the ESCA percentage in our vineyards in the last few years. So it was another little step into the creation of the Banfi development and the Banfi sustainability concept that I will go forward in a few minutes. The experimental vineyard that I was mentioning is also another part of the previous slide. It is something completely new, brand new in Montalcino. We planted 2 hectares of different kind of clones of grape varieties, of rootstocks and hybrids, in order to experiment and micro-vinify all of them in 2 years' time, probably even more. I will say that is a long-term project, almost 6 years' time, in order to face how they are behaving in this hot climate, in this region, even if they are not grapes allowed to be produced yet in Tuscany or in Montalcino. So the new rootstocks can also give a different kind of sustainable agriculture to the new plantations. The hybrid can lead to a less use of water. They need less chemicals. Usually we are in this, let's say more than 400 different grape varieties we planted. There are some of them that require water, that have less management, and so leading to, once again, a very sustainable agriculture. Some of them are grapes that cannot be cultivated in Tuscany yet, like Saperavi from Georgia, which has thick skin, small berries, and is quite resistant to hot temperature. So another step into, let's say, a very ethic way of wine business. And the oak, as you can see in this nice picture, is another very smart introduction from the Mariani family and the Banfi. Since years, we are aging our wines in barrels that we do select by going to France and choosing the oaks, then cutting them with very specialist cutters, and then seasoning, aging in Banfi for, let's say, 3-4 years old, in order to produce our style of barrels, but also to save CO2 in the transportation and to also only deliver staves instead of big barrels. So the final result you can see here is part of our aging room, is made by Banfi barrels that we are using together with our supply gamba that is produced in Banff barrels from us since ever. And they are a combination of 350 liters tonneau up to 60 hectoliters, 90 or 120, like the pictures that Lars just showed to you. So this is another, let's say, ethical way to produce wood and barrels, but also to get the wines sustainable. So delivery staves instead of big barrels is a big save on CO2 and is leading to our, let's say, final keywords, which is respect, sustainability. All of these big topics you can read on the screen are part of our sustainability project. So we were the first to save water in Montalcino. About 80% of the water we use is saved every year. To produce one bottle of Brunello or of wine in general, it takes 10 liters of wine. So in very tough vintages like 17, that we didn't have a drop of water from April to September. Water was like gold. Is one of the most important, let's say, ingredients to make wine. It sounds strange, but it's like that. So the big lake in the middle of this screen is one of our collecting water for then dripping irrigation and for use the water in all of the new plantations, for instance. Then this water is just filtered. Another big introduction and new let's say, patented biobed mattress is the pictures on the left hand with a straw. Is the way we are filtering the water that we are used for cleaning in a winery and to, let's say, naturally get them ready to be used once again for cleaning after 2 or 3 years' time. So in order to not waste any single drop of water. So sustainability is really what is making the difference in Banff estate. We are not only, if you can go back to the previous slide, Lars, I would like also to show that sustainability is, of course, made in a different way. It's not only about agriculture. So the philosophy in the back of the Banff family is that every action we do must be socially fair, environmentally safe, and economically feasible. So that is the reason why, for the first time in the world, we were certified ISO for exceptional environmental, ethical, and social responsibility. It never happened before. So to be sustainable today is a very, let's say, wide project. Is a wide range of projects you can do. It's a concept that involves all of the stages of the wine business and not only agriculture. So if you are sustainable, but your business is not, and you cannot sell properly, then sustainability doesn't make any sense. So it's really just putting together all of the slices of a big cake by small steps and preserving the environment. So the bees you can see on the picture is another huge indicator all over the world for sustainability. Today, actually, I just realized is the National Bees Day in the world. So we have our hives, so we produce Banfi honey, Banfi pasta. So it's not only about wines, it's agriculture, 360%, 360 degrees. So everything we did is to protect the environment, to, let's say, from erosion. We built 90 miles of drainage ditches into the property just to get with the water all around and to keep erosion. We preserve all of the flora and the fauna. We have olive trees more than 3 centuries old, and we still produce olive oil with those. We have prunes, so we have truffles coming from a little area just behind the castle. We are also, let's say, saving animals like a donkey from the Amiata mountain, which is now just a few of them remaining in the world, like a race of donkey. And also we preserve one of the ancient grape of Montalcino that you last know very well is Moscadello, that was much older than Sangiovese in Montalcino estate. So it's all about, let's say, taking care of the little steps of a cross strategy to make Banfi sustainable.
Which is
And
all great, Igor. We also have to think about saving time right now too, because we're also running a little bit long.
yeah, so I will go and say that
So much good things to say.
Yeah, so many things to say. So in the next slide, so you can see here the nice castle, the restaurant of the castle. But sharing is for us, if you can go on, also leading to your second question. So about what can we do for the reopening of the business. So Banfi is sharing all of the things we introduce in terms of winemaking and wine business, but also for the community. It's part of the sustainability to share what we did. The whale fossil has been discovered in our property. We are part of the sponsor for the Heroica bicycle race, for the Brunello Crossing run, and we are the inventor of Jazz and Wine Festival. And because we strongly believe in hospitality, and I think that the wine tourism will be maybe the first more ethical way of rebuilding the tourism after the pandemic problem, because it's made in very, let's say, low density places like Banfi, like Montalcino, in a beautiful open environments, and will lead probably to a rebirth of the business, of the wine business all over the world, and also leading to new, hopefully, sales. So we will, of course, invest a lot on that, and looking forward to host all of you and the Banfi property. So sorry for talking that long, but you know, there are 1,000 things to say about Banfi, and I will be happy to answer all of your questions. Thanks.
And all good things. Thank you, Igor. And you guys are your Banfi is its own importer, so that answers that question as well. In the U.S., obviously, a great presence. So now we're going to stay in Tuscany for a minute, but go toward the coast, and we're going to go to. I need to unshare. Sorry. We're going to stay in Tuscany, but we're going to go to the coast and to Bolgheri. And Marilisa Allegrini is here, a name that we often associate with another region up in the Veneto, but it's wonderful to have you here talking to us about the Tuscan coast. Marilisa, prego.
Thank you very much, Lars, and thank to all the people that are listening to this presentation. I think that is a great opportunity for us as Italian producer, and our country really need support. And our importer in the United States is Lux Wine, is part of the Gallo family. They are a big family, but we share really the same value, and we share the same philosophy in making wine and promoting the wine. And I would like to thank the Somm Journal, because it's the second time that you guys rewarded me for Poggio al Tesoro, because in December 2018, I had, together with my daughter, the cover of the magazine. So thank you very much for this fantastic opportunity. So we can start with the presentation, and you see that Poggio al Tesoro is part of the Allegrini estates. We have another one in Montalcino. So I was listening to Igor because it's very interesting what he said. And of course, Allegrini is the family business. I represent the 6th generation in the wine business. But in the beginning of 2000, together with my brother Walter, we wanted to do something. We went up along the Tuscan coast, and when we arrived in Bolgheri, we said, if we do something outside Valpolicella, this will be the place. And you see here 4 pictures of Bolgheri. You see the village, you see the landscape, and then in the bottom part, you see what is considered the natural monument of Bolgheri, this beautiful cypress boulevard that is 5 kilometers long, going toward the sea, so toward west, and toward the east, toward the village of Bolgheri, and you see the hills on the background. In the second map, in the second slide, you see the, please Lars, if you can go ahead. You can see where Bolgheri is located is 40 kilometers from next. And I took this information from the consortium. You see that the first Cabernet vineyard that was planted in Bolgheri happened to be in 1944, and it was Marchese Incisa della Rocchetta who introduced this grape variety. And in 1968, the first the first Bolgheri wine appeared in the market. But it was only in 1994 that the DOC regulation were approved, and last year we celebrate the 25th year anniversary of the Bolgheri appellation. And in the next picture and the next slide, you can see the beautiful event that they did. There was 700 people sitting in the beautiful Cypress Boulevard, and here is me, my family, and my staff. So, according to the DOC regulation, next slide, we can produce 6 wines and 3 reds, 2 reds, Bolgheri Superiore, Bolgheri Rosso, then Bolgheri Rosato, and then 3 different types of Bolgheri Bianco. Next slide. We are in Tuscany, the home of Sangiovese, but this grape variety represents only 2% of the entire crop. And because the intuition of Marchese Incisa della Rocchetta, Bolgheri demonstrates that is an excellent terroir for the international grape variety. In 2011, the DOC regulation changed. Before, it was only a blend that could have the DOC appellation. But now, as you can see, we can make DOC wine using 100% Cabernet Sauvignon, 100% Cabernet Franc, or Merlot. A maximum of 50% Syrah and a maximum of 50% Sangiovese. But at the end, Sangiovese represents only 2% of the entire crop. There is another grape variety that is used, that is Petit Verdot, but it can account a maximum of 30%. At Poggio al Tesoro, we don't have a single vine of Sangiovese. Next. Vermentino is the key white grape variety in Bolgheri, and there are many producers that make Vermentino together with some other grape variety. We make a Vermentino that is 100% of this grape variety because we think that is very intense, very rich, very mineral also. We select clone coming from Corsica when we planted the vineyard. And so we think that we don't need any other grape variety. But in recent years, we started producing also a Bolgheri Bianco. And this, according to the regulation, must be a maximum of 70% Vermentino. And then we use 30% of the Petit Manseng because the DOC regulations are quite open in terms of the philosophy of the producer. Bolgheri Sauvignon Blanc can be produced, but we are focused on these other 2 wines that I explained before. Next slide. So the microclimate is a key thing in Bolgheri, and we have luminosity. 80% of the days are like in the picture that you see on the left-hand side. And then we have, of course, the proximity to the sea. We have the wind, we have the breeze that come from the sea and from the mountain. But one of the most important characteristics is the kind of soil that we have in Bolgheri. You see that the soil is red, is dark red, because on the eastern part of Bolgheri, there are the iron hills, the colline metallifere, and the rivers that goes from the hills down to the sea, they bring to the territory, they bring this iron that give a lot of minerality in the resulting wine. Next. Now, the map of Bolgheri. The Bolgheri appellation in total is approximately 1,200 hectares, which means 2,800 acres. I want to point one thing. You see the Viale dei Cipressi, the Cypress Boulevard, and then parallel to the hills, you see this, the road that is called Strada Bolgherese. Above the Strada Bolgherese, there is only 10% of the total acreage, and this is the place where there are the top wineries. And when we purchased the property, we were quite fortunate because we were able to purchase approximately 36 acres in this part. So we have 2 vineyards located above Strada Bolgherese, we call Soprastrada. Next, I show you briefly the kind of soil that we have along the Bolgherese. So, okay, so you see very big diversity in terms of soil. And up on the left, you see sand, then you see down limestone, you see clay, and then you see pebbles with loose sand. So along the Bolgherese, the 2 sand and pebbles with loose sand are the 2 kinds of soil that we have. And also we have this minerality, and this gives a lot of complexity, very good length to the resulting wine. When we purchased the property, we studied the soil and we dig down 40 meters to see the different components. And we realized that which grape variety was suitable for the sandy soil, on the opposite of the clay soil, and on the limestone. So, as I said, Poggio al Tesoro, we started in 2001. And thanks to the big investment that we did, now we are one of the largest property in Bolgheri. There are 8 wineries that represent 80% of the total acreage, and we are number 6. So here you see the skyline of Bolgheri. You see the Via Bolgherese vineyard. You see Chiesina di San Giuseppe. These are the 2 vineyards that are located Soprastrada. And then you see Le Sondraie, 170 acres, is quite big. And then Valle di Cerbaia, which is located just outside the Bolgheri DOC appellation. And this is the place where we do all our experiment in terms of clone, in terms of vineyards, and in terms of grape variety. Next, this is the different in soil that we have along the Bolgherese. But I want to go to the next slide where you can see what we have at Le Sondraie, which is the largest property. Okay, next one. So, you see on the left the study of the soil that we did, and the dark green is where we have the majority of clay. The light green is where we have the majority of limestone, and the yellow is what we have the majority, where we have the majority of sand. And according to this, we decide what to plant, and the dark red, the dark green on the right is Merlot. Then we planted Cabernet Franc and then Cabernet Sauvignon. And toward the sea is the place, the large yellow part is where we planted the Vermentino. Next. And you see the grape variety that we have in Poggio al Tesoro. We have Vermentino. We focus a lot on the Vermentino, choosing this clone from Corsica. Then we have Petit Manseng. We have Viognier. and then Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Merlot, Syrah, and Petit Verdot. And I must say that especially Cabernet Franc was for me a big surprise because I was used to the Cabernet Franc that is planted in Veneto and normally is very herbaceous, very light, very green. And here is completely the opposite because thanks to the microclimate that we have, we can really achieve the phenolic maturation. Vineyard management, we have, you see the pruning, we carry out the method that allow us to consolidate the vascular flow of sap. And keeping the surface of the cut as small as possible, we reduce the risk of infection. And then all the part of the vines that come out from the pruning are taken out, so we don't mix with the topsoil because we don't want this to poison the soil. We just did the selection of the buds in May, and then early July we do the green harvest because we want to make no more than 1.5 kilos of grape per vine. We started to be the organic approach in 2015. We are not already certified, but we will be very soon. One of the things that we introduce is the green manure, and there is a way very used in the organic method. And you know, every year after the harvest, we test the soil and do decide which seeds we have to plant. Because sometimes we need to reduce the vigorosity of the soil, and sometimes we need to give some nutrients to the soil. So it's a very interesting thing that we introduce, and we notice big improvement in terms of quality. Of course, being organic, we don't use any chemical product, we don't use systemic product, we use copper sulfate to prevent the downy mildew. Next, and then this is something that was very new also for me. We use this Anagyrus for the for one insect mealy bug that is very bad in the Mediterranean Sea. And then we use, of course, the pheromone with the as antagonist for the vine moth. Another important thing that we introduced was instead of cutting the top part of the leaves, we now cured in the upper part, and we let the air circulate where the grapes are, but we don't, by not cutting the leaf, we let the energy of the vine to go to the grapes and not to make other leaves again. Last year, for the first time, we test another thing that you can see in the next slide, which is that we put straw as a mulching material to safeguard the humidity of the soil. And also we noticed that there was a very big biodiversity of positive insects that develop inside the vines. And now we go to the harvest. And we harvest for the rosé and the white. We harvest at nighttime because we want to bring the grapes to the winery as cold as possible. And all the reds are put into small boxes. This is boxes that we use in Valpolicella for the Amarone, but we don't dry the grapes, but we don't want the weight of the grapes to risk to break the skin. And then the vinification. This is a machine that can select the specific berries by checking the size. So at the end of the day, we know that we the grapes that goes into the vinification process are the ones that are perfectly healthy. On the right picture, you can see how many bad berries do not go into the vinification process. So it's a very dream, it was the dream of our winemaker. We ferment in stainless steel, but for the top reds, we started also the fermentation in tonneau and also in casks. And then we started a few years ago to experiment for our top rosé and our top white, the amphora. And we use amphora that do not allow a lot of oxygen to go inside, and because we don't like oxidized wine, but we like the flavor that the wine fermented in amphora give to the resulting wine. So fermentation and the aging process is carried out all in barrels, in barriques. We are experimenting a little bit the tonneau, but we think that for the grape variety that are used in Bolgheri, barrique are better. And in the next slide, we will see our production. Solo Sole, which is our Vermentino. Mediterra is our IGT. Il Seggio is our Bolgheri DOC. Sondraia is our Bolgheri Superiore. And then we have 100% Cabernet Franc, which is dedicato a Walter. In the next slide, you see our guest house, which is under reconstruction now. So we hope that when this health emergency will be finished, also the house will be finished. And we hope that you will come to visit us, because I love Bolgheri very much. I think that is a really beautiful place, and is the place, this is the staff that we have, is the place that where the stars align, because there are stars winery, but also in wintertime you can see beautiful sky, and is one of the very few places where you can see the Milky Way, and Cassiopeia, which is one constellation that I dedicate to my brother Walter, because he's a W. So thank you very much. I hope it was not too long, I don't know, but there was a lot of information. You know, Bolgheri is a fantastic place, so.
Fantastico. You're all making me very homesick for Italy. So now we're going to go up to Piemonte. And we have Cascina Caslet. We have there Mariuccia Borio, who's just come on the screen with her winemaker Roberto. So prego Mariuccia.
Buongiorno, è un onore presentare la nostra azienda. Ringraziamo per esservi sintonizzati e per ascoltarci.
So Maria said it's a great honor for her to be here, and she thanks you all very much for tuning in and listening to us.
Presento il nostro enologo Roberto, che può spiegare meglio in inglese azienda, cantina e vini. Grazie.
And she is introducing her winemaker Roberto, who can better explain in English about the estate,
okay.
the winery, and the wines. Roberto Austa, please.
Yeah. Hello to everyone. Thank you from me too. I'm going to start now with a brief presentation of our winery. Yes, Lars, could you put the first slide?
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Oh, don't worry.
You can share screen. Okay.
Yes, but I can start. Okay, no problem. Cascina Caslet is a wine estate that has been for several generations owned by the Borio family. Maria Borio, the current owner, inherited in 1970 the estate from her father. At the beginning, continued the family tradition, and then significantly expanding the size and the operation. The estate is located in Costiglio le Dasti, and in the company logo, the 3 red C letters stand for Cascina Caslet Costiglio le Dasti. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. Costiglio le Dasti is a village of 6,000 people in the province of Asti, and is the municipality with the largest vineyard area of the whole Piedmont, about 1,250 hectares. you can see the village center on the background of the aerial photo. The map represents the wine regions of Piedmont, and as you can see, Cascina Castellet is located in the Monferrato Stigiano, in the south of Asti, in an area close to the territories of Langa and Roero as well. Okay, following slide, please. Yeah, the company has around 30 hectares of vineyard. These photos represent some of our largest vineyards. The rolling vineyard hills of Monferrato have their origins in the Tertian age, when the sea retreated from the Pianura Padana and started a long process of erosion that is largely responsible for the Piedmont landscape that we see today. So we are talking about a terroir that is about 2 million years in the making. The soils here are generally poor in organic material, which means that the grapevines get a little bit of stress, which in turn means more intense fruit flavorful wines. The soil of our area is often called white soil. The name comes from the light gray appearance, as you can see in the picture. This is a result of their richness in calcium carbonate, silt, clay deposit, and the abundant volume of marine fossil shells that can be found among the hills. In general, the wine produced here are full-bodied, deeply colored, spicy, rich with dark red fruit flowers, and able to age in bottle for several years. For this reason, in about 70% of our vineyard, we grow Barbera d'Asti and Moscato d'Asti, the two typical grape variety of this area. In the remaining surface, we grow Chardonnay, Cabernet Sauvignon, Nebbiolo, and Uvallino. Uvallino is an ancient indigenous variety that Cascina Castellet has saved from extinction in 2003. Okay, next slide. Yeah, the harvest. Okay, in relation to the harvest, we pick all our grapes by hand. As you can see in the pictures, we harvest in two different ways. In the first one, we use baskets of 20 kilos each for the grapes that are crushed immediately after picking. And in the second one, we use small baskets of about 4 kilos each for the grapes that are semi-dried before crushing. Okay, let's go on the next slide, please. Yeah, the drying rooms. Okay, from these semi-dried grapes, we produce 3 wines. A Barbera d'Asti Superiore named Passum, a Monferrato Rosso from Uvallino grape named Uccelline, and a Moscato Passito named Avier. The history of drying grapes at Cascina Castellet to improve the quality of the wine started more than 40 years ago, when the grapes were laid originally on racks and just the best ones were selected by hand before crushing. Today, we use specific rooms, as you can see on the pictures, with a dedicated air conditioning system that allows us to maintain the grapes healthy and to preserve their acidity and perfumes. The drying period depends on the wine. For the 2 red wines, Passum and Uccelline, is from 3 to 4 weeks, but no more, because they are dry wines. Instead, for Moscato Passito Avier, that is a sweet wine, the drying period is from 6 to 8 weeks. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Yeah, the cellar. Okay, here we see a part of our production zone in the winery. In the cellar rooms, we have steel tanks and quite an advanced amount of technology that help us in several operations, from vinification to bottling. Technology helps us in some simple but very important activities. For example, during phases of filtering, racking, and bottling, help us to limit the contact with the oxygen. Or as another example is controlling the temperature during alcoholic fermentation, demolatic fermentation, and aging, where we set also the humidity. Okay, speaking of aging, let's go on the next slide. In these photos, you can see the 2 aging rooms. where the wines are aged in barrels of different sizes. We have barriques of 225 liters, tonneau of 500 liters, and a big barrel or botti of 25 and 34 hectoliters of French oak. Each wine goes through different kind and duration of aging. Normally, the barrique are used for 3 years maximum, and tonneau for 4 years. Botti for maximum 15 and 20 years. Okay, we are nearing the end, so let's move to the last couple of slides. Okay, environment at Cascina Castlet. We live on the land and with the land, and we try to respect nature in everything we do. As a result, we have found some remarkable allies in our day-to-day work. The roses you can see at the beginning of each vineyard row in the past were used as a natural early warning point for diseases affecting the vineyard. Cascina Castlet decided to keep them not only for decoration, but also as a connection to its centuries-old heritage. We have installed photovoltaic panels that provide about 50% of our electricity used at Cascina Castlet. Then, to preserve biodiversity, we have placed artificial nests for birds in the vineyard, so that they can remain in the area, even where there are no trees because of the vineyard. Finally, as you can see in one of the bottom photos, for the cellar wastewater treatment, we use a phytopurification system, a natural system to purify water, and we use this purified water for irrigation. Okay, we go to the last slide. Okay, wines. Here you have the entire range of our production. You can see on the left the younger wines, and on the right the aged wines. Regarding the aged wines, you can see the Barbera d'Asti Superiore Passum, the Uccelline wine from Uvalino grape, and Moscato Passito Vie as well, that I mentioned before. Each wine has its own personality that, as you can surely see, is reflected via some very peculiar, innovative, and distinctive graphic traits and labeling that are also one of the defining items of Cascina Castlet since the very beginning. Okay, thank you for attention, and if you have a question, I'm available.
Fantastico. Grazie, Roberto.
Thank you very much, Lars.
Time too. Thank you. And your importer in the US? You have a couple.
Yes, it's a Romano brand.
Excellent. Wonderful. Look forward to getting these wines. So now we're going to stay in Piedmont and just go a little bit south. And if I have my geography correct, a little bit south and west, we go to the Barolo area, to Serralunga, and we have the Giovanni Rosso winery with us. And I know that Davide Rosso is there with his brand development manager, the man that travels the world, Daniele Della Noce. And it looks like you guys have been using the invisibility cloak during this presentation. We kind of see you coming and going, but hopefully you're there. So prego, Daniele, tell us about the Giovanni Rosso.
Lars, I was just wondering if during the presentation you can actually show the video. Is that possible for you?
I don't have a complaint as long as we stay within our time slot.
Or maybe I can try to do by myself. Let's see if it doesn't work, just to show the video, right? Okay. Let's see if it's work.
Nice screensaver.
All right, yeah, it works. See. Hey. It's work?
It looks, I see it. Does everybody else see it? I'll take that as a yes.
I start or no?
Prego.
Okay. So, we are here in Serralunga, and my family is Ange Dios that own the vineyard, but I ever start me to make a wine because I'm an enologist, and I ever study here in the school in Alba. After I also work in France, and I started around 25 years ago to make a wine, and our family own 11 different crew in Serralunga d'Alba, in the most prestigious crews like Cerreta, Serra, or the meeting Vineyard Honda Parcel 251P. Immediately when I ever started my career, the vinification, etc., the work was in the direction very naturally. We was the first that stopped to use the chemical deserve, and of course we stopped to use the selection yeast, etc. But this 20 years ago, not yesterday, 20 years ago. And the fermentation in cement tank, and the aging in big barrel over French oak. And this is our idea that we have, and is extremely important, the work in the vineyard, to keep the soil inside, the wine, etc., to keep the terroir. The terroir of Serralunga is unique, is very, very calcareous. It's the most calcareous than the other village of Barolo area. And with this, the wine is extremely mineral. And you see now this video, so the land is fantastic. It's a very nice place with the castle, etc. And this is the approach that we have. Today, we produce around 300,000 bottles, and in the US we are with Vias import, and we are very happy in this moment, because extremely exciting in this year, because they have the 16 vintage, and we are absolutely the good idea for the future for this vintage, etc. We work also in the tourism. When we have built a new winery, we are also developed the wine tourism. Now, of course, we are closed, but this Saturday we reopen just for the Piemontese people, and after, from the 3rd of June, we are ready for all that they come here to visit us, to see the vineyard, etc. We are also the helipad inside. This is very nice, because it's possible with this to see the Barolo area, the top crews, not just in Serralunga, also in Barolo, in Canubi, etc. And this is the idea that we have. Now, metti un po' che mi vedo anch'io. Okay. And just to see a little bit the wine, now Daniele is my export manager. He's the person that we travel around the US Union more than me. I have traveled for 15 years. That is Daniele, the person that goes. And Daniele speaks now the Serra, the Barolo Cerreta, and the Barolo Serra. Okay.
Right. Yeah. I will spend a few words just talking about actually the unicity of the Barolo area, which is a very small area surrounded by the Alps. And
you take off your
sorry.
Share screen.
Okay, this is it. Yeah.
All right, so yes, the Barolo area surrounded by the Alps in the northwest of Italy, close to French. So is made by 11 different villages, all of them with very different characteristics. And so Serralunga d'Alba, also the Barolo, it's very, very important to say that Barolo is a very small area, and only 2,000 hectares of Nebbiolo grapes are used for the Barolo. So this is it's very limited production. And only in Barolo, we have 180 different cru, which all of them show different expression. So let's talk about our vineyard in Serralunga d'Alba, which is from Serravalle conformation, Serragliana, yes, with the Lecchio formazione. So we have more calcium, more calcare percentages in the soil. Cerretta, I will show you the vineyard. So is in the medium lower part of Serralunga d'Alba, is watching the east exposure. And yes, this is our vineyard. As you can see, it's a 2 hectare in the half in the southeast exposure. So we have this amphitheater of land where the soil conformation is made by limestone, but we also have a little bit more percentages of clay. So this make Barolo Cerretta a little bit more rich in color. So it's a very brilliant red color, much more intense also in the nose, and very elegant and fine tannins. You see there is the forest in the lowest part of the vineyard, which actually defend the cold wind who came from the valley, is a Signos Valley just down below. And so we have a unique microclimate there, and this is the reason why we have selected Cerretta, this 2 hectare and a half, as our single vineyard. The production is very limited because we do only about 8,000 bottles every vintages. We go a little bit higher, also in Serralunga d'Alba, just across the villages. We are in the higher part. We own 1 hectare of vineyard in the Cru Serra, which is exactly these 2 stripes of vineyards. Also, those are with the eastern exposure, and but here the soil is much more white, so we have more calcareous in the land, and so the wine Serra is much more stronger. So we have stronger body structures, and of course, it's a wine for long aging. The tannin are very vibrant, and so this is the beautiful things, and this is the unicity, I think, in Barolo, because we reap the gift of have different expression, different DNA in every single vineyard, even few meters far away from one to another. And just next to Serra, on the back of this crest, we have a vineyard on the Cru, which, let me see, got it. Vineyard Onda. Vineyard Onda is a very small cru. The total surface is 10 hectares, and we actually own 1.2 hectares, which is these stripes from the top part to the bottom part. Here the exposure is a full south, and the soil very shiny white, so limestone mainly in the soil. But the most important characteristic of this parcel, which is, Davide said before, is 251p, is also the age of the plant, because this vineyard was planted by the great father of Davide in 1946. So then Davide will tell you more about this myth of Vineyard Onda. But in 2011, we actually have restored part of the vineyard. So we kept, actually, I can show you better in the next slide, this. So in 2011, we restored part of the vineyards. So we actually kept this little piece, 0.4 hectare, with the vine from 1946. We actually, where we produced this wine, is the Barolo Vineyard Onda. I'll show you later the label because we can see that. And with the new, with this part, have been replanted in 2011. So today, the old plant are used for our Barolo Vineyard Onda, and then the young wines are used for Langhe Nebbiolo Ester Canale. So we actually declassified the Barolo in Langhe Nebbiolo, and we make the deuxième vin of a Vineyard Onda, which is Langhe Nebbiolo. Also, so these are the 3 single vineyards that we produce, but we also make different other wines. So we make a Barolo Village, which is made by 5 different cru, all of them in Serralunga d'Alba. So they they actually represent the village of Serralunga d'Alba. So different vineyards, so different exposure, a little bit different soil characteristics. All of them, they harvested separately, then fermented. At the end of alcoholic fermentation, they get blended together in still tanks making the Malolactica, and then three years in a big French oak of Fontainebleau forest. And this is the Barolo from Serralunga village. Also, another Barolo we made is the Barolo Classico, so which is made by the union of 3 different villages, so by Serralunga d'Alba, Castiglione Felletto, and Barolo. We made also 1 Barbera and 1 Nebbiolo. It's very interesting, the Barbera, because came from a Rodino area, which is just a little bit higher than Serralunga, so you have the same soil characteristics, and so you have so Barbera characteristic is very acid, very generous in fruit, so it's very juicy. But at the same time, you have the minerality taste, so it's very interesting and very vibrant Barbera. And then the Langa Nebbiolo, which is Nebbiolo, 100% fermented very shortly, the same as the Barbera, so 10-15 days in contact with the skin, and then we go for 5-6 months in big French oak. So the Nebbiolo is very clear, very net, easy drinking, and we also say it is for the people who doesn't know Barolo, maybe is the first step to get into. Yes.
This is metti più grosso che non
vedo. Attenzione
Lars, dov'è? Maybe we have also a vineyard estate, a small estate in Etna. And this is our peer, is our dream that in 2016 we have decided to buy this small estate in Passo Picciaro, in Soricchiata, and Monte Dolce Cro. And this is, we are very, very happy about these efforts, etc. And this is our life, our story, and our idea for the future. You see also the magnificence of the castle of Serralunga and the land that they have. And in this period that was very bad for Italy, we have decided with the other producer and the comune, the mayor, etc., to make a gift of this castle and to have one idea for the future that is better than the last 2-3 months. And we are delighted with the Italian flag, and every night for months and months the castle will be illuminated with the Italian flag. And in this video now is possible to see that is a fantastic. Look at this. Bello, Ti piace?
It's a wonderful thing because it's, you know, in Italy, in America, we're used to having our flags out all the time. You don't see that as often in Italy, but really nice to see it coming together over this crisis that Italy has, the Italians have really joined together and taken this national pride in the sacrifices that they're making together. So thank you, Daniel.
Yeah. We need to be a little bit more proud about our country now.
Okay.
Absolutely. We are.
Thank you. Fantastico. Grazie a tutti. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Ciao.
So Danielle, I'm going to ask you to stop your share screening, as beautiful as that is. I hate to
stop, right?
second that. You have to keep moving on. A lot of producers, wonderful producers that have great things to say. So we're going to, you're still, there you go. Thank you. So now we're going to stay in Piemonte, we're going to stay in Barolo, and we're going to speak to Valentina Bona of Marchesi di Barolo. And Valentina, you have your presentation ready too?
Yes, thank you very much for that.
Fantastic.
There we go. Just let me know if you actually see it.
I see it, looks beautiful.
Perfect. Well, so we're just taking a few steps from where we just were in Serralunga. We're staying in the same region, just moving a few kilometers to the town of Barolo, which is this tiny one here. So just 700 people in our village. And we have the fortune to live right in front of the castle. So we also enjoy that emotion that David and Daniela were talking about seeing, the castle with the three colors of our flag every evening. So I agree with Daniela that we should be a little bit more proud of our country. And today I think it's a proof with all the great wines that we're able to make from here and the great people that we are meeting. So thank you, Lasse, and all the Somm Journal for giving us this opportunity, actually. So Barolo, as we mentioned, it's in Piedmont, in the south of the region, but in the very northwest of Italy, in a sub-region called Langhe. Langhe actually comes from the Celtic and means the strips of land because of these rolling hills that we see in, when we travel to Piedmont or when we are here. Hills that were rise from the sea millions of years ago, so characterized by a very particular soil composition and a very unique climate. The region of Barolo, it's quite central to the Langhe area, and as we said earlier, it's very, very tiny, only around 2,000 hectares, which translates into around 5,000 acres, so no more than that on the vine. And the altitude varies from 170 meters above sea level to 540. So again, not very, very much high. We are still looking at these sort of rolling hills, which again emerged from the sea millions of years ago. So there's been a lot of erosion. The soil in general is characterized by a high percentage of marl. So great structure coming from in the wines, coming from the fact that the soil is so rocky and so hard for the roots to dig in. And the climate of this region is very unique because it's characterized by the Alps, which we see here in the background. So that surround us all the way up north in the west and also a little bit in the south, separating us from the seaside, which is in Liguria. So we benefit from a unique climate given by the protection of the mountain that never allow very hard winds to blow into the region. So this is the reason why our grapes, our local varietals, express in such a unique and very particular way. And our wines are mostly called by the name of the sub-region of the DOC or the DOCG, rather than just the varietal itself alone. In the town of Barolo, as I mentioned, we are very lucky because our family lives right on top of the estate, so right in front of the castle. This is our estate in the town of Barolo. And this is actually the estate where the history of Barolo wine started, at least as the wine that we know nowadays, still dry and very rich and austere, around 200 years ago. In fact, it's actually a very romantic story, the one of Barolo, because it's a result of a love story, the one between the last Marquis of Barolo, Carlo Tancredi Falletti, and his wife, Juliette Colbert, a French noblewoman that arrived in this very same village, Barolo, in the beginning of the 1800s, and immediately realized the beautiful grapes were growing spontaneously in the area, yet no wine, as she knew wine was in France, was made. Wine was kind of still, sparkling and a little sweet, so very different from what we consider wine today. And because of this intuition of what our grapes could express in terms of terroir, she had underground cellar built for the very first time. And these are the cellars where our family still makes wine today. So it's the original building from the 1800s. And actually the barrels that you see here on the left side of the picture date that very same time. These barrels were built with the purpose of having this very fine and elegant juice that the Marquise named Barolo in honor of the village where she was from and where the grapes basically were from. So to really reflect a terroir, really reflect an area through the wine itself. So finally, wine became still, it became dry because it was able to complete fermentation and all the sugar was then transformed into alcohol and still preserved the great austerity that really typifies Barolo. And as you can see, of course, today we don't have only the 200 years old barrels, but we did introduce also newer and different size barrels in order to follow our winemaking philosophy, which is to reflect our terroir in the different shades that we find in our vineyards through the winemaking and then through the wine themselves. So today our family at the 5th generation and the 6th one, my brother and I, are carrying on this tradition of winemaking. We were born as winemakers in the very same village of Barolo. And in 1929, we were able to take over the estate of the Marchesi, who passed away with no children. So it's a double history, the one behind Marchesi di Barolo, the one of the Marchesi di Barolo themselves, and the one of our family, which today is traveling the world and traveling our area to show it through the different wines that we make. We own around 200 hectares of vineyards in a number of producing areas throughout the south of Piemonte. So of course, Barolo is our focus, is our core, but as you can see, we really are able to express the different nuances that our land offers through the very few grape varietals that we locally grow within these regions. And our winemaking philosophy starts from the vineyards. So the biggest lesson that we follow is to respect the biodiversity of our area and know our grapes, know the terroir, know how each vineyard has been managed through the years in order to respect the expression that this can show. So maintain and enhance the characteristic of that grape, of that vineyard through every single wine. In fact, from the village of Barolo, my mom and dad around 40 years ago, when they got married, they decided to plant Barbera. This vineyard that we see here in the picture is Paiagallo, so right in front of our home, of our cellar, in the very heart of Barolo. As you can see, a very steep vineyard, which back in the days was used for growing Barbera too. So they went back to our roots as Piemontese producers, and they started growing a Barbera again after many years of having Nebbiolo in that vineyard. And the result is an extraordinary expression of what Barbera can be. Barbera, we mentioned this, well, not we, but Daniele, Roberto mentioned this earlier. It's one of the most known and widespread varietals of the area that shows great acidity, but it's quite simple. It's considered like the everyday wine for Piemontese people. If grown in very special terroirs, as the one that we saw before and that we are seeing right now in Paiagallo, it can really show beautiful results of complexity and strength because of what it gets from the soil. The soil of Paiagallo, it's quite rocky, so the roots have to dig in quite a bit, and therefore we have this greater expression of an everyday wine, so that we can still have an everyday special day. While looking at Nebbiolo, of course, is the grape varietal that it's the most demanding one in terms of soil type and climate, so in terms of terroir, and is actually in fact the grape varietal that shows the majority of wines that bring out really the nature of the terroir itself. In fact, wherever Nebbiolo grows, for the most part, we don't see on the label the name Nebbiolo, but we see rather the name of the area as Gemme, Gattinara, Lessona, if we're looking up in the north, or Barbaresco and Barolo down in the Langhe area. And Barbaresco and Barolo, as you can see, are quite close by. They're just like 25 kilometers between one and the other, which translates into less than half an hour driving. But yet the terroir is so different that the same grape would give two different GOCG. In Barolo, which is this area that David and Daniele were explaining, made of 11 different towns, being Barolo Serralunga and Castiglione Falletto, the only 3 100% inside of the appellation area, while all the other 8 villages are just like a portion of the villages is within the DOCG, and characterized by what we were saying earlier, this unique soil and climate situation, with the Alps being so close, and this altitude that varies from 170 meters above sea level all the way to 540. Just to give you an idea about the richness of this tiny DOCG, again, we're looking at around 2,000 hectares, so not really that much, but yet 170 single vineyards, 181 different MGAs, menzioni geografiche aggiuntive, so opportunities of showing a single expression of Barolo, either from a single vineyard or from one of the 11 communes in which you can actually grow Nebbiolo and make Barolo wine. Ideally, just to give you a little bit of a background here, we can divide this area into 2: younger soil on the northwest of the region, coming from dating back to the Tertonian era, so from 7 to 11 million of years ago, basically. So still showing a quite nice amount of sand within the vineyards themselves, and some rockier soils here in the southeast of the region, so exactly where Serralunga is. Some more complex vineyards here, definitely less sand, more clay, more limestone, more challenge for the vines to dig in and find some nutrients, so more strength in the wine, just as Davide was saying. Barolo town is kind of in the middle of this region, so benefits from both type of soils. And looking at just the town of Barolo, actually, we are looking at a little valley. Barolo means in our ancient dialect a low-rise place, because it's one of the lowest villages within the region. So we are surrounded not just by the Alps, which are surrounding all the Langhe area, but also by the higher hills of La Morra, of Monforte, of Serralunga, which are kind of cuddling the town of Barolo, allowing an even more particular type of climate here. And the vineyards that our family vinifies, as single ones, are all within this commune. So very, very close by, yet very, very different one from the other. And here you have a picture from above so that you can actually see how close they are one to the other. Yet Coste di Rose is probably one of the most sandy soils vineyard that we find, not just within Barolo town, but within the region of Barolo. So very delicate perfumes here, very delicate structure, a little bit more richness in Canubi. So just taking a step of a few hundred meters from where we just were. Same exposure, same altitude of the vineyards, but very, very different soil, to end in Sarmassa, which is, as you can see, the most rocky one of all. So here we reflect a little bit the personality of wines that you can find in Serralunga, the greatest strength, the greatest austerity, and also probably the greatest longevity. But each one of these is a very true expression of what Barolo is, as Barolo as an appellation is all of these things together. So our family already since many years decided to show, sorry, I will back up a second, decided to show an expression of Barolo that could synthesize this richness, this diversity in just one wine. Our Barolo del Comune di Barolo is one of those MGAs, Menzione Geografica Aggiuntiva, which stays at the commune level. So it includes all vineyards that we own within the town of Barolo. And as we just saw, vineyards that vary very much one from the other in terms of terroir. So this is a very classic expression of what a Barolo can be, as Barolo was born originally as a blend of Nebbiolo, but from different sites within the region. So a very generous expression that gives an idea of this low-rise place sitting at the middle of the two sub-regions, Tortonian and Helvetian. While looking at just the single vineyards, of course, we have very particular expressions, very particular performances. I chose Sarmassa for as an interpretation that reflects our personality the most, probably because it's the most challenging vineyard that we are facing with. So one of those positions that was always considered to be super appropriate in order to show the identity of Barolo that we all picture, a Barolo that has very, very long life, that even, you know, in the today in the youngest year can show great, but can really, really last long forever. And that shows the strength and the challenges that every day we have to deal with when it comes to making these wines. Of course, our harvest is 100% handpicked, and as it is within the region. And this vineyard is quite steep, so you can definitely imagine the challenges. And it's also one of the single vineyards that is giving us the greatest opportunities to show what Barolo can be in different moments because of this greater long-lasting experience that can provide once in the bottle. So we recently came up with this 10-year edition of it. So a 10-year release that comes out of the winery only on the decade from the harvest.
Fantastico.
Okay, I won't go too long because I know that we.
Thank you very much, Valentina. That's very much appreciated.
Thank you.
So
and
now,
just to end, our winery is imported in United States by Frederick Wellman, which represents us throughout all the states. And of course, we are all looking forward to coming out to from this very dark tunnel in which we all were, and the enthusiasm of opening again this weekend, as well as Davide. It's so much that we really can't wait to see some smiles again coming in the winery.
amen. We can't wait for you to have some American smiles. We all want to be there. So thank you for answering that importer question. And Daniela, you guys in the US are with, I forgot to ask you guys before, you're with Vias, correct? You're muted.
Okay, I got it. Yes, we are with Vias Import.
Great. And I know we had a question come in about Canadian importers as well. We can't forget our North American neighbors. So if each of the producers has a chance, maybe write that into a chat of who your agent or importer is in Canada. Because we're going to keep moving on here, and we're going to go up to Verona, and we're going to speak very much with Sandro Boscaini from Masi. Sandro, I have your PowerPoint ready to go. If you are willing to have me share it with you, or if you guys have it there online, let me know how you'd like to do it.
No, it's open. Hello to everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you great.
So, great. I present myself, Sandro Boscaini, and representing sixth generation from my family from the time 1772, when my family bought the Vaio di Masi estate. From there, the following story of the company that now it represents a own vineyard in a different sites in a Valpolicella classic area, and you can see the PowerPoint if you have.
Yes, absolutely. I will put that up right away. There we go.
Okay, go. Next.
Yep. As soon as I figure out how. There we go.
Yeah, the family, myself, my brother, two brothers, and son of both. Okay, go. Next. Okay. So what you see is that the Gruppo Tecnico Masi, the technician group of Masi, 13 person, very professional on viticulture, winemaking, quality control, and marketing, and are responsible of our wines production. Next, our center of headquarters of the villa, of our vineyards and our place in Valpolicella Classico. Next, and Serego Lighieri Estates is one of the largest single estate in Valpolicella Classica, and owning some of the best vineyard sites. Next. Another of our viticulture and growing olive oil in the area close to the Lake of Garda. Next. A view of vineyard sites high in the hill of Valpolicella. And by the way, the soil there, you can see here Mazzano vineyard, one of the best, our single vineyard. The soil limestone, as in fact is together with the volcanic soil in the Valpolicella Classic hillside area, when in the foot of the hill we have calcareous sediments, and on the valley we have alluvional soil. Here another vision of San Ciriaco, another vineyard site in the hills. Next. Next, please. Another view of the vineyard, go. Argentina. Yeah, another view of classic vineyards in the hills of Valpolicella, and the view of the vineyard for white grapes on the valley. The vineyard, the grape varieties typical of Valpolicella are Corvina, and if you go to Corvina, Rondinella. Rondinella is a variety, and Molinara, the three typical local grape varieties that are responsible to make Amarone, Ripasso wine, in our case Campofiorin, and Valpolicella. The winemaking method they make unique Valpolicella wines is the appassimento, the drying of the grapes, and you see here how careful we dry the grapes in the usually in the small old houses in the hillside where the temperature and the climatic conditions are perfect. And you see here another vision of view of the arella, which is the bamboo racks that dry grapes in one of our typical and old, in this case, place for drying. Next. Then the wine, when it's made after the drying grapes, and is Amarone, and the Amarone is got to be aged or mature in a large cask, as you can see here, from 600 to 900 hectoliter. Next. To the some type of wine in a barrique, but in general not Amarone. Next. The Amarone instead is aged in what we call Fusto Veronese, which is a typical size of 600 liter in a oak from Slavonian and French oak. Then, of course, in a bottle, and you see in the next our Costa Sera Amarone, which is the flagship of our Amarones. Masi have 5 different types of Amarone, 3 single vineyard, Mazzano, Campolongo di Torbe, Baio, Marron, Serego Lighieri, our Costa Sera, and then we have a Costa Sera Riserva, that is the best prestige Amarone after long aging by law. Next. The Cantina Privata Boscheini, and you see here one of the first vineyard, the first vintage of Campofiorin is a special selection where we present to the market our single vineyards, as well our old back vintages, both of Campofiorin and Amarone. You see here the special place where we age the Oseletta variety of grapes. Oseletta is an ancient variety of grapes, and Masi has been lucky to rediscover after almost 100 years of when it disappeared from the vineyards in Italy, this variety of grapes, and now is responsible. You see here the small bunches, the small berries of this variety, and you see here even better. And we vinify fresh and dry to give some extra tannic and extra acidity to our Amarone Riserva. As well, we use to make a super Campofiorin, Barolo di Campofiorin, or other type of wine. This is a vision, a view of our vineyards where we cultivate only this variety of grapes close to the river Adige, the second largest river in Italy. The pergola is very interesting, also considering how to prevent the global warming. It is an ancient system of grown grapes in Valpolicella that now became in fashion again after the years and years of Guyot plantation, and we have both pergola and Guyot, in particular in the hills. Why? Because here the grapes do not suffer for the extremely hot summertime that we are experimenting recently, because of the shadow, because of the high elevation of the grapes from the soil, because of the ventilation, because the bunch is really surrounded by the air. And the best vineyard sites now are in the most proper for this global warming is exactly by the pergola. So in all the system that became very interesting. White grapes and white wine are also present in our vineyards. In this case, Masianco, which is our typical white coming from Pinot Grigio, together with another indigenous local variety of grapes. Next. Next, please.
Ecco.
Our Valpolicella Classico, Bonacosta, that it comes from the foot of the hills, the area that is not so rich, the grapes to produce Amarone, but is a fantastic wine with a lot of cordiality, freshness, and the fruity, in particular the cherry fruit. Next. Our Campofiorin, I mentioned before, is the original Ripasso wine. Then we changed in the 1980s, in a double fermented wine. Why? Because we don't want anymore to use the ancient system to re-ferment the red wine on the skins after the fermentation of Amarone. Rather, we make properly short drying, and we re-ferment, and we make Campofiorin. Now the two Amaronis, Costa Sera, and as I said before, with the longer aging and with the presence of the variety of grapes Orzeletta, is the Riserva of Costa Sera, the black label that you see now, which is the super Costa Sera Riserva. By law, need an extra year of aging and a higher dry extract. Please, next. The Mazzano is one of our true single vineyard wines, high in the hill with the name of the location, Mazzano. And we have, as I said, three of these vineyard, Mazzano, Campolongo di Torbe, and Valle Marron, well known, small production, and very well accepted in the market everywhere, with a long tradition of a high score. Please. And Tenuta Canova is one of the places where we do our Masi wine experience, making wine and food pairing, testing of wine, and with our wine bar, we present local products with our wines combined with our wines. Yeah, and this is one example, for example, where we manage this very difficult moment of a virus, with the virus. A Casa con Masi is our project. Is a project on and offline, and we present different activities, online activities, lead testing with Instagram, cooking classes, food and wine pairing, online sales, and offline the delivery and takeaway from our Canova place. We are at the end, I think.
Yes, that was the last slide.
Okay, and thank you for this opportunity you gave to us.
Grazie, maestro. Bravo.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we go up to toward the tip of the border of Italy with Laura Feluga, who's the granddaughter of the founder Livio Feluga, who's going to speak to us. Are you live in Cormons, Laura?
I'm live in Cormons, here in the north. It's dark, it's dinner time, and they're kicking me out of the winery. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna have to be very quick. Also, because even if I'm a millennial, I'm not as good with technology. I have to confess, you guys taught me how to use Zoom yesterday evening, and I just gained the worst aspect of being a millennial, which is a very short attention span. So I'll try to be quick. And please, attendees, the attendees that we have left, if you can help me going through my presentation, which is very, very simple. I just wanted to share some images from the winery with you to share the vibe that we can enjoy here in this remote but very eclectic and charming region of Friuli Venezia Giulia. And also, Lars, please help me too. Help me as well. So my name is Laura Feluga. I am the 6th generation of our family being a winemaker, being a farmer, I would say, because we're a family of farmers. In the end, we, unlike some of our French counterparts, we are very, we don't have any noble side to us. We really come from the land. But I'm the 3rd generation of the winery that was founded by my granddad here in the hills of Friuli Venezia Giulia. So you can see a picture of him when he was around 90 and when he was younger. Unfortunately, he passed, but he lived up to 102 years old. So first of all, I really, really hope to have those genes in my DNA, because they will turn out very useful. And just seeing his life is like we can go through the events of our region of the history of our region just by looking at what happened in his life that was very, very long and adventurous, I would say, and hopefully very inspiring. And this is the reason why we'd like to share. We usually share it with our audience. So it was born. We might share the heritage, Lara. So I'm a little bit Austrian too, because my grandfather wasn't born in Friuli Venezia Giulia, but was born on the other side of the Gulf of Trieste. So for everybody to know, Friuli is the last region on the northeastern tip of Italy. We border Austria to the north, Slovenia to the east. Then we face the Adriatic Sea to the south and Veneto region to the west. So the easiest way to reach us is actually to land in Venice and then drive up north about an hour and a half at the most, because now they're renewing the outer route and it will take a while with the virus, so a couple of hours. And but he was born in what is now Slovenia. And the family used to have vineyards there. Then he grew up, he learned viticulture from his grandfather. He was the first of 7 brothers and sisters, and part of the family moved up to Grado. That's a little island in Friuli Venezia Giulia, where they started selling the wines we used to produce in Istria. Grado was like the Hamptons of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. All of the nobles used to spend the summer there, and that's where he grew up. And then, unfortunately, he had to leave for war. So he left for about 8 years, 2 years of training. Then he fought in Libya. He fought the Battle of El Alamein. He was captured as a prisoner of war. He spent 3 years in the Highlands in Scotland, picking potatoes. And then by the time he came back, of course, we lost everything. Everything had gone. Italy was undergoing a very deep crisis. There was a lot of poverty. The landscape of our country was devastated, and also the wine. I would say that the way we used to produce and consume wine was very different from what it happens today. We were poor. Wine was an aliment. People were running, like we're working barefoot in the vineyards. There were no single varietals, so it was like the wine was a little bit oxidized. It wasn't bottled, and what happened was he rose a little bit northern in Friuli Venezia Giulia. He ended up in a very tiny stripe of hills. That it's where the winery is based now, around the hills of Rosazzo. That was a land devoted to viticulture because the Romans brought the vine there more than 1,000 years ago. As a matter of fact, my region was developed from a military camp that Julius Caesar set on the border of the Roman Empire when the Romans were fighting with the barbarians. And this military camp became Forum Iuli, and that is the town of Cividale, where my region, Friuli, takes its name from. So Rosazzo, the vine was brought to Rosazzo from the Romans, but when my granddad came back, it was devastated. It was a little bit forgotten. So he had this vision of, this very daring vision, an intuition of buying and restoring the ancient plots, to produce wine of quality. It was everybody thought it was crazy. Of course, he had no money, so he started asking for loans to banks that would refuse him the money. Industry was developing, so most of the farmers were willing to leave the land and go working in the factories. The owners of the land were nobles, and they didn't see any interest. They didn't know how to cultivate it. So what he did was finally found somebody that would, finance his project, and he started buying and restoring bits and plots of vineyards in Rosazzo. I have to say, going back to my region, I have to say this is a region that is very diverse, not only from an historical perspective, from a cultural perspective, from a geographical perspective. We have the Alps, we have the flatlands, we have this tiny stripe of land, we have the seaside. We spoke Friulian, that is very similar to French, because we've been invaded by, we still are a land of border, and throughout our history we've been invaded by everybody. The Romans came, Venetian came, Napoleon came and invaded us and brought to us some of our most beloved varietals as Merlot, which we call Merlot, and Sauvignon, that we consider actually local in our region. we have Germanic varietals like Riesling. We have there's plenty. There's a lot of diversity in language, cuisine, culture, and landscape. And it's what makes our region so difficult to convey, I would say, and also so interesting. So finally, got to go to Rosazzo, and he did another thing. Its driving force was intuition. So he just felt what he needed to do, and he risked a lot. What he did was he bottled and labeled the first vintage in 1956, and actually since in 2005 we had the 50th anniversary of our map label. We reprinted some of those. So what he did, like back in the day, not many used to bottle, and it was very rare to label. But since he wanted to, I would say, the style of winemaking was to put the land at the very first place and to convey a sense of place. This was his vision for its wines: precision, attention to detail, a reflection of the terroir. And so what he did, he chose an ancient map of the area, that is the one you can see on your right, and he turned it into our label. And this was his way to speak to the consumer, even if he wasn't there. And for this, it was considered kind of pioneeristic, and it's considered one of the patriarchs of our region, because it really helped reshaping the wine industry of this area in the way we know it now. What else can I say? Maybe if we scroll down, Lars, I don't know if I put some nice imagery. So yes, exactly. Friuli is that up there in the top northeastern corner. And then maybe there's a few other pictures of the estate. So this is actually, you can see the hills, the stripes of hills are spread between two appellations: Colli Orientali, the eastern hills, and Collio. And Rosazzo is actually a DOCG since 2001. And it's a tiny DOCG around the Abbey of Rosazzo. That is that building you can see in the picture on the left. And it's a tiny appellation. We produce two of our top wines, Abbazia di Rosazzo and Terre Alte, come from that appellation. And since 2008, we have the privilege and the honor to manage the agricultural side to the Abbey of Rosazzo. So one of the projects in the future, when the COVID will allow us to go back to business, is to actually restructure the ancient cellar of the Abbey of Rosazzo, that is dated in the 12th century, and to bring the production and the aging of Rosazzo wines back at the Abbey. We also restructure the ancient tower, and that will become our center of hospitality. These are some images of the Abbey of Rosazzo. Mainly our soils are mainly marne and sandstone. Stratification of marne and sandstone that geologists call Flysch of Cormons, but in Friuli we call Ponca. I've recently learned, it's very clayish. I've recently learned, this doesn't really have an impact on the wine, but that Colli Orientali is a little bit more heavy in clay, and Collio a little bit heavier in sand. But we don't really perceive this in the wine specifically. The way we show our terroir is through our wines. I can't exactly explain why, but if you taste the wines we produce side by side, you will appreciate that. So actually, this is my dad. Unfortunately, he is the director and the head winemaker. Unfortunately, couldn't be with us today because it's his first day off since forever. And in Italy we say I didn't have the heart. Non avevo cuore to force him to stay here today, but I hope we'll have another occasion to share some time with him as well. As a matter of fact, you can find out more about him in a beautiful article that was published on the Somme Journal last December, that was written by Michel and Jeremy Ball, that actually spent a few days with us and wrote a beautiful article about us, very detailed. So you'll find a lot of information. And if you want to know more, please feel free to reach out anyway. One last thing I wanted to mention is I just want to briefly talk about 2 wines, which you can also see.
Yes.
I have very, very digital props live. These are Pinot Grigio and Terre Alte. So back in the 50s, when my grandfather really started the winery, it really focused on single varietals production and focusing on Friulano for sure. Merlot, that is still the most widely red varietal planted in Friuli, Venezia Giulia and in our state. And he made a bet, Sauvignon, and he made a bet on Pinot Grigio because he really wanted to show how Pinot Grigio is a very noble grape varietal belonging to a very noble family of grape varietals. And when properly grown in the vineyard, this is a varietal that can actually provide great depth and complexity, and it's just a super charming, and you know, it can become very velvety and pleasant and very truly delicious varietal. So this was one of the bad, and Pinot Grigio is still nowadays one of our main focuses in the production. And then Friulano that appears, that is manifesting in our production in 3 ways, and actually taste them side by side is a way to appreciate our terroir in a way that I cannot explain scientifically, but it's just so easy to perceive by tasting. So we produce a single varietal Friulano, and then we produce 2 blends in Rosazzo that are called Terre Alte and Abbazia di Rosazzo. These 2 wines are a little bit more complex in winemaking. They're blends. The base wine is Friulano though. And these are wines that want to show how great white wines can also age quite well. So the ageability of beautiful whites of beautiful whites in general. And if you taste these 3 wines side by side, you could really, even in the cellar when during production, tasting the Friulanos from these different areas that are they're hills that are basically facing each other, is just so charming. The Friulano from Terre Alte is a little bit more tropical, exuberant. The Friulano from the Abbey of Rosazzo, the Abbazia di Rosazzo, most of the time is a little bit more balsamic, and we don't say balsamic in English. We say, what do we say? Herbaceous, maybe, Lars. Balsamic sounds bad in English, right? Sounds like vinegar. No, we don't want that. We don't have that. Herbal. Like,
herbal is better than herbaceous.
Yeah, exactly. And what else? I don't know what to say. What else?
It's good. I think you did a great job. Thank
you.
Grandfather would be very proud.
Good.
So thank you very much, Laura. So
thank you so much.
Awesome. So ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, on one hand, I feel like one of the luckiest people in the world that I get to present this incredible panel. I also feel like one of the unluckiest people because I have to cut them short and cut down the time because there's so much wealth and knowledge and sharing that they all have to offer. And I also want to thank all of our listeners for tuning in and being very patient over these last 2.5 hours. This has been a marathon, but I hope it's brought a lot of information to you. I remind you that it's been recorded and it's going to be on the SommCon USA as well as the Somm Journal websites, as well as I'd like to hope the sites of many of the importers and producers here. Speaking about importers, Laura, you are with MMD, correct? Your importer?
Correct.
Marks and Domains. And I think we neglected to mention that Mazi is with Santa Margherita, correct? So we've got the importers covered there. Second thing I wanted to do, just a little bit of housekeeping, is to remind everybody, if you have had a subscription to the Somm Journal and it went to your place of work, which may have changed or may be closed, please let us know and we'll just reroute that subscription to your home address. We're more than happy to do that. Just reach out and let us know. One of the other things I wanted to point out, and I almost feel like I shouldn't have to point this out because it should be the norm, but we had 9 producers on here and 6 of those presenters were incredible women in wine. And you should be very proud of that. And the other 3, I know Sandra Boscaini, your daughter is involved. Alessandra is involved on the sales end now with your estate. Of course, Igor, your boss, is Christina Mariani May, which, again, a fantastic woman. And Davide, I know Esther, I know Mama is listening, so I know your mother's involved in this too. So here's to the women in wine. We should raise a glass to them. And again, it should be the norm. And I think in Italy, it is the norm. And it's a wonderful thing that we should all celebrate. So again, we went long on time. So I hope you had a chance to look in at some of our producers had a chance to look at the chats. We will be addressing those. Our great tech team from SommCon is going to be collecting those questions and sending them to any of the winemakers that they were addressed to. So your questions will be answered individually. And we will address those. And I took a look at the Q&A, and I think the one that really stood out to me the most was the idea of climate change and how are wineries, winemakers, wine growers addressing that. It's again, we could go on probably for another 2 hours with that. Let's please not. But I think I'm going to do a little roll call and ask each of you to just address very briefly the idea of climate change and how you are addressing that. So Milena, if you would like to go first to touch on that. Unmute yourself. You're still muted, Milena.
Okay.
Okay.
Could you repeat, Lars?
So the idea of climate change. Obviously, our climate
I answer about that.
How are you addressing that in the vineyards with your winemaking style?
Well, I answer that since 16 years that I'm in Italy and I work in the winery, I see a change of the moment of the harvest. So mainly we hand the harvest on the beginning of November for Aglianico, with our main important red grape variety for Taurasi. Normally in a classic harvest, we harvest on November, the beginning of November. Now we usually finish the end of October, but it's not every day like that. But if I have to make a summary of all my harvest, yes, we harvest a bit before. It's a problem for many others areas who are not in hills, but we are on the mountain. We have a fresh area. We have a lot of water because we are in mountains. And so we don't have problem with Irpinia, our area. Our countryside has also rain enough during the winter and the spring. So we don't have problem of maturation, and we don't need to irrigate, was another of the question they asked. But we have to pay attention in other area because if it's too warm, then we harvest before, and then we the producer, the grape variety will not arrive to the maturity for the aromas. So we in Irpinia, in my area, we don't have problem, but maybe in other area in Campania or in South Italy, it will be a problem for the aromaticity of each grape variety, because we need, it's important, the maturity for the red and for the white, the tannin of the red and the polyphenol, but also the aromaticity has to be complete before harvest. So we may be worried, and obviously the agronomy has to be continue to do research, but on each autochthon grape variety. Well, they are doing a lot of research of main grape variety, and also grape variety who resist better to main cryptogamic disease, but also we have to pay attention to the autochthon grape variety to preserve our patrimoine, our genetic patrimoine.
And so that is the strength of Italian wines, is the indigenous grape varieties. That's your heritage.
Yeah, in Irpinia we have really a lot of different grape variety in Campania, around 100. So grape variety that we do wine with. So we have a important ampelography system of grape variety, and we have to pay attention to keep it in the years. So in the agronomy, we try to select in the old materials and on the old vines. We have really in the winery vines of 100, 200 years old, and we try to graft in the vineyards to choose our selection, mainly for Aglianico and other grape variety like Fiano and Greco.
Yeah, all ancient varieties too. They've gone through a lot, so hopefully they'll go through that much more.
Yes.
Viruses and plagues and everything else. Thank you, Milena. So
Thank you.
Mariana Velenosi, would you like to address a little bit climate change in the in your area in the Marche?
Yes, in our area, actually, we have a little bit hotter summers. And actually, this is quite good for the red wines. So we do not have problems on that side. Unfortunately, we had some problem for the white wines because too much hot weather, so hot summers, they can decrease the aromatic bouquet of white wines. So we decided to change our pruning method. So now we leave more leaves on the vines. In this way, the bunches are covered and they are not so hot from the sunlight. Yes, so we are also speaking about the harvest. Sometimes we experienced, we had to control the maturation curve. So we have to be more patient and we have to be more accurate on the control of the vines and the maturation. But as I told you before, is mostly on the white wines. Yeah, at least in the Marche region. Probably It will be different for the other producer in the other areas.
Mm-hmm. Of course. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Igor, I know you touched quite a bit on some of the initiative that Castello Banfi has taken with the climate change and whatnot and respect for the climate. So if you want to address that again, revisit some of those points.
Yes, indeed. In Montalcino, we faced an increase of average temperature in the last, let's say, 20 years, which is dramatic if you think about alcohol contents in the wines. And we actually don't need more alcohol. We need balance. We need freshness, acidity, aromas. But it's not just a matter of sun and sugars in the grapes, but mainly it's about the water contents, is canopy management, is rootstocks, is experimenting. So that's why we started this big project in vineyards experiments. So a new laboratory vineyards for microvinification, taking care about rootstocks, about new clones and new grape varieties. Of course, the aim is not to take some Sangiovese out from the blend of Brunello. That's not the goal. But, you know, it's just trying to understand how the new grape varieties or other experiments could help us in facing this kind of temperature increase. This will be probably the only way to keep the balance into the wine. So earlier ripening or anticipated picking is not probably the only thing we can do. Otherwise, we probably get unbalanced with tannins, with phenolic maturation, and that doesn't make any sense. So I think it's just a matter of knowing deeply and precisely every single corner of the estate and try to say forecast what the weather condition will be in few years. I'm still let's say, convinced that water would be also a big issue. So the climate change is also very directly linked to the water needs. So probably if we can both work on water and, let's say, agriculture in general, then it's the only way to face the global weather changing. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Igor.
Thank you.
And Marilisa, I don't see you. Are you there? I'm going to guess that Marilisa has stepped away. So if Maria Lisa, there you are.
Here.
Great. So you have different realities also to deal with, as well as in the
Yes.
Veneto and Montalcino. And of course, we're specifically talking about Bolgheri today. So you talked earlier about different clones for Vermentino and that sort of thing. That's all an impact, I suppose, on climate change to a certain extent. No Sangiovese in the Maremma. So tell us a little bit about your approach to climate change in Bolgheri.
You know, the first vintage that I did in Bolgheri was in 2002, which was a very bad vintage. It was the year that I think, no, we didn't bottle the 2002. We sold the wine in bulk, and it was very cold, very difficult to ripen the grapes. And since then, I think that my experience is not long enough to say how the climate change in Bolgheri. What I can see is that every year we witness an extreme vintage. So every year we have big differences in the growing season. Last year, I remember in May, it was raining and it was very cold. This year seems to be very balanced. And what we want to save in Bolgheri is the freshness. And all the things that I did, that I explained before, that we do in the vineyard, are due to the fact that not just we want to be organic, but we want to preserve the integrity of the fruit, and we want to save the primary aromas of the grapes. What I can say is that in Bolgheri, the water, the irrigation help, because we can have some drought during the summer. And so if you have drought for 1-2 months, for sure you need to give some water. And so we have drip irrigation in all the vineyards, but sometimes even with the drip irrigation, we use the spray irrigation, because to save this freshness and to have the pH low, you need to refresh the canopy. And this is something that we do in the vineyard management. Another thing is that, for example, all our vineyards are from east to west. So to have balance in the southern exposure and in the northern exposure is that 1 week before the harvest, we take away the leaves just on the northern exposure, so we can have the right maturation. Sugar maturation is extremely easy in Bolgheri. I remember when I was a child, it was very difficult in Valpolicella, and it's something that, but sugar maturation is one thing if you want to have complexity, and if you want to have the right tannin, is the phenolic maturation what you need. And this is why all this vineyard management is very, very important, and you have to be very meticulous.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And Roberto, how about up in the Asti area? Mute, you're on mute. Roberto, you're on mute. You're still on mute.
No, yeah, I agree with the other panelists, and we too have also seen the harvest occurring earlier and earlier. Yes, but the lessening of rain in the summer, it does here in our soils, it has not really a big issue, as the vines are still resisting to the stress created by the diminishing of water supply. Now, grape. Okay, the other important fact that is now the grape gets to the cellar with the sometime temperature over 30 degrees Celsius, and we hence need to quickly lower temperature during fermentation. This is very important.
Right. So we're talking about 90 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, yeah.
Over.
And then we are experiencing also a progressive increase of the alcoholic degree and in fact, the time of harvest change, and of course, we do a lot of chemical analysis and etc. And yes, it's difficult, but for at the moment we can produce the wines. Okay, of course.
Good. Keep the birds coming back to the estate.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We will.
Absolutely. And Davide in Serralunga. Unmute. Unmute. Mute. Unmute. We can't hear you.
Okay.
There you go. Bravo.
In Serralunga, Serralunga is a part of Barolo more high than the other. And honestly, in the last years, this climate changing has a little bit help, because the temperature is a little bit more high, and the phenolic maturation is better than 20 years ago, etc. So, of course, he depends the vintage of vintage. In general, they have this phenomenon, but is not one changing enormous. We ever see just in 2014 one vintage very difficult, etc. Now, I think what they say, Elisa Allegrini is perfect, because the work is every years very different in the vineyard, and every year is important to study a lot and to see the difference. It's not automatically produce a big wine, a great wine. Is really, really important. Make enormous attention every year, and this is also a part of the terroir, no? Because the terroir is with the vine, with the soil, and with the man, with the human person. And this is what they made the difference, no? And for example, I see also in Etna too, the little bit changing as a help, because Etna. Of course, is in Sicily, but it's 740 meters. They rain every 2 days. It's not hot. It's not absolutely hot. But it's important. Follow every year the vineyards, and of course the moment for the maturation, the phenolic maturation, is a different. And and of course Mariana Velenosi, they say that they change a little bit in the vine and in the fermentation. Of course, every vintage is different, and in general they have this little bit changing. But in my case, in my village, as a help, this.
Excellent. Well, you know, Mother Nature is aptly named, because all our mothers always challenge us. So, so Valentina, talk to us about your low-rise area around Barolo.
Well, actually, I have to agree with most of what has been said so far. I mean, we are all facing difficulties which we didn't see before. It doesn't mean just raising temperatures, but a sort of other elements that impact on the weather. Temperature, of course, but also I would say more extreme weather conditions than what we used to have decades ago. So higher temperature with very high peaks, as Roberto said, 30, 40 degrees of temperature in the summer months. Water bombs that feels like we're in the tropics and we're not in Barolo any longer. Crazy. That are not useful because the water doesn't stay in the soil does not have the time to absorb the water. So it basically takes everything away and leaves the vine completely dry. So we have to address those situations by managing the vineyards very carefully, by paying attention to what happens every day. As you know, everyone said, Davide, we have to, this is part of the terroir. The terroir is the soil, is the climate that challenges us. It's the people that work in the vineyards. We're investing, all of us, I believe, a lot in vineyard management, way more than cellar techniques, which basically follow what happened in the vineyard. We personally are trying to, manage the green the most in order to leave more leaves in case of a very high percentage of sunrise rays. And we try to leave the most natural grassing, so to keep a little bit of the water that otherwise flows away. This said, is it's a process that we address daily according to the situation, but this also creates new opportunities. 2014, like Davide said, is a vintage that, if well managed, gave us great results. And even though we are in a low rise place, we're seeing new potential also in higher vineyards. And Davide just confirmed that talking about Etna. So
yeah, absolutely, so very true. And Sandro, and I say this with the utmost respect, but arguably, and probably not even arguably, you likely on this panel have seen the most vintages in your career. So
yeah.
Tell us about your experience, and your approach to climate change.
So, two phenomena. One is global warming that I already mentioned before during the presentation. And the second is the inconsistency of the rainfall during the year. Both are playing to making much more hard our job in one side. On the other side, when we are let's see, it's more easy for us to dry grapes because in general the ripeness comes earlier, so it comes during not really very humid time for the drying of the grapes. But let's go. First, I mentioned that a relief from the unusual warm that we have, it comes with the pergola, coming back to the old ancient when making system to trellis the grapes, the vine with the pergola, because it's a more ventilate, is a shadow that protects from the strong sunny ray the bunches, and in general we have better maturation than on the normal guyot. And that's why we, where it's possible, and we're making new vineyards, we give more attention to the pergola rather to the guyot or other system to trellis. A second point instead is what I mentioned, I said before regarding the consistency of the water, the rainfall during the year. Of course, even in the area like Valpolicella Classica, that never we have been used to use the irrigation. Now the drip irrigation is almost normal, and we need, in particular, in the first years of the new plantation of the vineyards, because we can have really months and months of dry, and then followed by, for example, a long rainfall time. So we have to manage much more properly than in the past.
Lars, you're on mute.
Thank you. Sorry. You've also got the added challenge in the Valpolicella area where you have that added season of the appassimento when the grapes are drying in the frutile.
Yes, this is another point. Of course, we need the proper weather conditions during the drying, and to have a great Amarone is equally important to have great grapes at the picking time, but also proper weather condition and the climatic condition during the appassimento. So for us, it's extremely important to have good grapes, but also to have the proper, if the winter, like it was the last one, for example, is humid, warm, and fog, it's very hard to proceed with the proper appassimento. It's true that now we have much better possibility to control with the humidification what the method we have, for example, that is a natural appassimento super assisted. But in any case, it makes much more careful the process, and sometimes we have to manage in order not to have rot on the grapes during the long drying process that go, as I remember, from sometime last weeks in September up to the end of January, beginning of February. So it's very long time where we have to protect ourselves from the worst condition of the climatic condition.
Yeah. Very, very interesting. Very true. And Laura, only because I called Sandro out as having the most, and you identified yourself as a millennial, you arguably have the fewest vintages, but your winery, your family winery, has a very long memory from starting and pioneering. So if you could address how you approach things in the Friuli. You're on mute. Toccate mute.
Mute.
Okay.
Funziona?
Sì, ci siamo.
Okay. So yes, so I would say we're lucky because we're in the north, but altitude is not that important here. We're just about 200 meters above sea level, and we have quite a mitigating effect of the Adriatic Sea that flows in the hills, and we're kind of protected from the northern and colder climate by the Alps. So
right.
This is our generic condition. In the latest years, we could perceive climatic change because everything became more extreme. Everything became more unpredictable. There were moments where it rained too much, moments where rain wasn't there at all. So having a long history, we were lucky on one hand to have some older vines that by nature were more adaptable because older in age. Some plantings that date back to the 90s were done using some weaker rootstocks, and on those, luckily, we were able to install some drip irrigations that we were able to use on the first years as an exception to the rule because we weren't always allowed to water the plants, right. But now it's becoming a praxis. Yep. And thank God my grandfather, that I don't know, it's like at this great intuition, was able to secure some access to water even back in the day when water wasn't a problem. So it was very forward thinking, very great intuition, really. We're very, very grateful. And nowadays we're planting some tiny little plots, about 10 hectares, hectares. And we are using some rootstock that are more resistant to drought. And then we'll see, like we'll play by the year. Our strategy at home is just to learning by doing and try to face the challenges that happen day by day. But for sure, water 100% is going to be the main issue for us as well. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for that. Thanks everybody on the panel for addressing that question and for this marathon. We're past hour 3 now, but I again just want to remind you that this has been recorded. It will be available on sommjournal.com, sommconusa.com, as well as the producer and importer sites. And there will be a recap written by one of the most talented writers at Somm Journal. There'll be a recap in the August-September issue of Somm Journal to revisit some of the themes we spoke about here today. So I want to thank all of those professionals who tuned in today. and all of our incredibly talented panelists. I want to thank Meredith May at the Somm Journal, our editor and publisher and editor-in-chief. And of course, SommCon. Michelle, thank you so much. And I'm going to throw the ball back to you to wrap it all up. Thank you very much for this opportunity for education and communication.
Oh, Lars, thank you. I mean, you do such a fabulous job in moderating, and thank you to our wonderful panel of producers. And to everyone who stayed with us through the duration. I think Lars summed it up really nicely. So with that, we'll just bid you all a good afternoon or good evening wherever you are, and tune in for our next series of webinars. We do have several that are coming up, another with the tasting panel and Somm Journal here in just a few short weeks, and you should receive the invitation to that, as well as a series that will be hosted by Master of Wine Jeff Lubitska. So we've got some good information coming out. Thanks to everyone, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
I think that we can now say buonasera everywhere we're broadcasting.
Likely. Bye, everyone.
Buonasera, buonanotte. Ciao.
Ciao ciao a tutti, grazie.
Thank you very much.
Thank